Hi, I'm Bill Sanders, and for this edition of the Art and Science Watch Collection, or as the French refer to it as Haute Horologerie, I want to talk about standards. The, the most famous standard is called the Geneva Seal, or the Poinçon de Genève. This seal was started back in the 19th century, and it became the standard for the very, very best watches. Right now, uh, one watch I have with a Geneva seal is a Patek Phillipe from the 1960s. Now, since then, uh, Patek Philippe has set up their own standard because one of the criteria for the Geneva standard was that all of the parts, or I think 50% of the movement parts or something like that, had to be made in the canton of Geneva in Switzerland. But a lot of the operations were moved elsewhere, and so Patek Philippe decided, well, we're going to set up our own standards. Another watch that is certainly deserving of the Geneva seal is this Audemars Piguet. Now, this particular one is from the 1990s, and it's a day-date moon phase watch. It keeps excellent time, and when we compare these two watches, and we look at the mechanics of it and how they're made and the quality and everything from the movement to the finishing, they're equivalent, except Audemars Piguet are not in the canton of Geneva, and so they can't even apply for it unless they move their operations to Geneva. So if it's a funny kind of thing. Another company that has a lot of their iboshes, their movements judged by the Geneva seal, judged by the foundation that has the seal, is Vacheron Constantin. Now, there was a period where their iboshes didn't have that because some of the ones that they were using had been made elsewhere, and then they would do the finishing and fix them up themselves. And so they couldn't do it, not because they weren't making excellent iboshes, but rather because they were being done elsewhere. Now, 70% of Vacheron Constantin has the Geneva seal. The real, I guess if you're looking for excellence in a watch and it has a Geneva seal, that's a good thing. But if it doesn't mean it's a bad watch. It just means that it's not from the canton of Geneva and that it didn't submit its movement to their criteria. There's another equally important foundation called Contrôle Officiel des Suisses Chronomètres. This is better known as the COSC, and the COSC sets the chronometer standards, and only 3% of the Swiss watch production is certified by the COSC. So this is something else. If your watch has the papers for the COSC, that's a good thing. But if it doesn't have it, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just was a criteria that wasn't set to. A number of newer ones are coming up to set standards. They don't include the quartz watches. The quartz watches movement criteria really isn't not much of an issue because they're so doggone accurate. This is more for the criteria on the insides of the watches. So a lot of the criteria, especially by the Seal of Geneva, is for something that's done on the inside that you're never going to see. So but you know that the finishing work is excellent. And for those who are interested in high horology, that's important. And some of the newer ones, mainly outside of Geneva, is one called the Flora Quality Foundation. Now, this foundation is set up that its watches not only meet the COSC certification standards, but they also have set up a criteria for the entire watch. So this is another one. They're not as well known, and the number of watch companies involved in it isn't that big. So it's a nice thing to see on a watch, and if the Flora Quality Foundation mark is on a watch, you can pretty much assume that it's a very good watch. So to a great extent, it's a positive but not a negative in this regard. If they have these seals, that's a positive. That means, boy, these guys met some very high standards. If it's not there, that doesn't mean the same thing, though, because in the case of Audemars Piguet, they just don't live in the right town, or they're not developed in the right town. Of course, some of the great watches that the Germans made, they're left out of it altogether. Not even the same. They're not even in Switzerland. So, like I said, don't worry if you don't have this, but if you do, it's a nice thing. That's all for now.